Welcome to episode 2 of the NBA Talk Show. I'm your host, Bailey Hauser. I'd like to dive right in and talk about the Cavaliers and Nets game from last night. Collin Sexton ended up winning the game single-handedly for the Cavaliers with posting numbers of 42, 5, and 5. And if you did not watch this game, in overtime and double overtime, he put up 20 by himself, hitting threes over Kyrie and KD. There was a play where he was pulling up on the left wing with Kyrie on his right hip, in his face, hit the three, and then on the right wing, hit one over KD. He was completely out of his mind last night and spoiled the Big Three's first game together. Even though they lost, the Big Three still posted pretty good numbers. Harden had a triple-double with 21, 10, and 12. Kyrie had 37, 2, and 3, and KD had 38, 12, and 8. KD is still playing lights out and at an MVP level. Harden didn't really have his best game, although he did have the triple-double. His numbers look a lot better than how he actually played, especially in overtime and double overtime. Harden and Kyrie were definitely struggling offensively, turning the ball over a lot and not hitting shots. And there was a play in overtime where Harden got the ball off an inbound and C.D. Osman met him at half court. Harden takes a step without dribbling and then takes another step, dribbles. So obviously he travels, doesn't get called, and they call a foul. I think this is one thing that the NBA definitely needs to look into changing for the rules, is that they make these plays that aren't reviewable because they weren't called or whatever. But when something so blatant like that happens, you know, there's got to be a line where we can review anything, because at that point the Cavaliers are down by one. It's 125, 124, and you know, in that play it should be a turnover, Cavs ball with about 20 seconds left in OT, but instead Harden goes to the line, hits 2 free throws, and they go up 3. Now Collin Sexton was playing lights out, so he goes back, hits a 3, sends it to double overtime with a second left on the clock of the first overtime. But you know, that's a big game-changing play that could have definitely turned out differently for the Cavaliers if Collin Sexton wasn't playing the way he was last night. It probably was his best game as a pro so far in his third year. Moving on to the 76ers, Joel Embiid is still playing at an MVP level, putting up 42, 10, and 2 last night against the Boston Celtics. He's had 3 40-point games just in recent memory in the past week or 10 days. You know, he had a 45-point game against the Heat. He might have had one the second game they played the Heat on their back-to-back series, or maybe it was against someone else, but he's just on an absolute tear. Doc Rivers, I'm not sure if it's Doc Rivers to go for if he is the catalyst to Joel Embiid playing like this, or if it's just Embiid got himself healthy enough and in shape enough to be doing this on a nightly basis. But it's definitely something to pay attention to, see if he can do this long-term and in the playoffs. Tobias Harris had another good game, 22, 3, and 5. He looks like he's returning to form like he was on the Clippers with Doc Rivers, and that's what a lot of people were suspecting with bringing in Doc Rivers, is that you're going to get Tobias Harris back at nearly an all-star level. One player I really like on the 76ers is Shake Milton. He posted 16 points last night, but there was the second quarter, he was completely cooking. He hit a 3, he pulls up, hits 2 floaters, hits another 3. You know, he is just kind of instant offense for this team, and they really need it going into the next topic on this team, which is Ben Simmons, who posted 11, 8, and 8. But I watch this team, and I have concerns about Ben Simmons, and I don't see the same offensive aggressiveness from him. You know, he would be one to get it in the low post, drop step it in, dunk it, lay it up, whatever the case may be, but I just don't see him doing that. He is initiating the offense on the perimeter, he's passing and then just running to the dunker spot. He's not really calling for it, he's not doing all that much, and it's a little concerning that his game really isn't growing. He is shooting threes more this year, but there's been a whole lot of air balls, so it's not something that all of a sudden he's going to be a 40% three-point shooter. So I'm not sure if this team, they might look back and regret not trading for Harden. I believe the package was Ben Simmons, Matisse Thybulle, Tyrese Maxey, is that his first name? It might be, but the Maxey, the rookie point guard that they have, and then I think 2 first rounders. It's a bit much to give up because I do know that they like Maxey a lot, and obviously Thibault is a great defensive player, and Ben's Ben, is a former All-Star, not playing like it right now though. But I am very curious if they do not make a run, they might look back at this and be like, we should have went for it with Harden. It's risky because he doesn't really have good history with big men, especially with Dwight Howard being on the 76ers. That didn't work out in Houston, but I think that was a different Dwight Howard and certainly a different James Harden. So we will see how they end up looking, but I am very impressed with Joel Embiid so far, and hopefully Ben Simmons can grow. And he definitely needs to get his assertiveness back on offense because the team really needs it. Moving on to the Rockets and Suns game. The Rockets lost to the Suns 109-103. Victor Oladipo had 22, 5, and 6. Eric Gordon had 22, 2, and 2. Christian Wood posted 20, 11, and 2. And he also rolled his ankle during this game pretty badly. I believe it was his left ankle. He went straight to the locker room as soon as it happened, and I wasn't sure he was going to come back out, but he ended up coming back out, so that was good news for them because he is definitely their second best player, if not their first, truthfully. And then DeMarcus Cousins, in 14 minutes, 3 points, 6 rebounds, 3 assists. He definitely is not the boogie of the Kings' stature anymore with all these injuries. Even the Golden State boogie we were seeing for a while, he's not that anymore. On the Suns side of things, DeAndre Ayton had 26, 17 boards, and 3 assists. Definitely one of his better games as a pro. Devin Booker had 24, 5, and 2. CP3 posted 13, 4, and 4. Jay Crowder had 11 and 5. It was all around a good game from the Suns. The bench unit was cooking, and I believe it was the third quarter. They were just giving it to the starters on the Rockets. The Rockets are going to be a competitive team this year. 10 teams do make the playoffs on each side, but I do not think that this team is a playoff team currently. They do not have John Wall right now, so benefit of the doubt, it is a newly formed team, and they don't have their starting point guard. But I just don't see this team. They're going to win games. Maybe they'll be around 500, but they're not going to be a threat to anyone. The interesting thing I'm going to be looking at is, I believe it's March 4th, that Victor Oladipo could be traded again. And I'm curious whether, wherever they're sitting at record-wise, if they are looking bad, if they trade him away. I know the Heat are interested in Victor Oladipo and Bradley Beal. So I'm very curious on whether they just completely reset the team and go for draft capital and young assets, because it looks like outside of DeMarcus Cousins and John Wall, that's where they are going, and Eric Gordon. It definitely seems like they just need to hit the rebuild with all the draft picks they're about to have as well. What's the point of being mediocre, especially in the Western Conference? Moving on to the other games around the league last night, there was actually a good amount of good games to watch last night, which was surprising. The Heat beat the Raptors 111-102. Kendrick Nunn had his best game since probably before the bubble last year, when he was looking to be in the Rookie of the Year conversation. He posted 28 points, 8 rebounds, and 5 assists, and it was very efficient numbers. I believe he shot 12 for 16. So definitely his best game. And if the Miami Heat are going to look to trade for Bradley Beal or Victor Oladipo, they're definitely going to need Kendrick Nunn being the centerpiece, because I know that they do not want to give up Duncan or Tyler Hero. It was definitely a balanced effort for the Miami Heat on this game, without Jimmy and Avery Bradley still for the health and safety protocols. They're still out. I'm not sure what their timetable is currently to return to the team. And not having Jimmy on the team, I think, is a big step for growing for a lot of these players on the Miami Heat. Bam needs to continue growing. He's definitely been shooting a lot more mid-ranges this year, and he's knocking them down at quite a high rate, which is great to see, because him expanding his range will be huge for that team. You have Duncan, who's still a lethal shooter. Tyler was out for this game on his 21st birthday. I believe that he has a neck issue going on, so he missed this one. I think he's missed the last 2 now. Kelly O had 15, Iggy had 13, and overall it was just a very solid effort. Dragic had a good game. Bam had a double-double. So I just got to see these players continue to grow, especially the young guys. Moving on to a game that I just kind of completely ignored because I didn't think it was going to be anything exciting. The Magic and Timberwolves. The Magic beat them on a Cole Anthony game winner. He hit a fadeaway 3 on the right wing to win it. It was a crazy shot. Definitely regret not throwing that game on a little bit. So I don't have much to say about that game other than the great shot by Cole Anthony to win it. Next, there was the Atlanta Hawks and Pistons going into overtime, and the Hawks beat them 123 to 115. Trae Young had 38 and 10. Clint Capella had 27 and 26 rebounds, and John Collins had 31 and 11. Their big three out in Atlanta definitely had their best games together combined. On the Pistons side of the ball, Jeremy Grant is continuing to carry the Pistons on the offensive side of the ball, posting 36, 6, and 5. Blake had a little bit better of a game with 17, 7, and 4, but in overtime, the last play that was made was a Blake Griffin turnover to end the game. So he definitely still, like I harped on in the first episode, does not look like himself. The athleticism just doesn't look like it's there anymore. The last game I'd like to talk about is the Clippers and Kings game. Clippers ended up winning this one 115 to 96, and I watched a good majority of this game, and it was actually, despite the score, a very intriguing game. Kawhi posted 36, 3, 5, and 6 steals. He was really everywhere for the Clippers. There were plays where he was coming over weak side and just taking the ball away from Kings players, and then he'd just take it up court, dunk it, or hit a mid-range, and it was just a very efficient and kind of a quiet 32, although he was hitting shots at the right time, I would say. He was definitely hitting daggers every time the Kings were trying to go on the run. Kawhi's like, all right, well, I've had enough of this. I'm going to hit a few shots, stop you defensively, and we're going to get our lead back. De'Aaron Fox had a nice game, 25, 4, and 7 assists. And Tyrese Halliburton also had a solid game, 11, 3, and 2. I definitely like these two point guards on the Kings. I think they are there for the future for sure. And I'm not sure about Marvin Bagley. He had a good first half. He ended up with 10 and 8. He was getting good, easy, solid buckets at the cup in the first half, but then, I just really didn't see him do much in the second half. And for a player picked where he was, he definitely has been underwhelming. And he's always going to have the comparisons with Trae Young and Luka Doncic because he was drafted in between them. So I know earlier in the year, his dad had tweeted out, trade my son, something along those lines. And Marvin right away was like, I'm not going to respond to any of this. So he handled it in a good way. But I think his dad might be onto something with getting him off this team. I'm not sure how he fits in anymore. De'Aaron Fox and Tyrese Halliburton are definitely the future of this team. Outside of that, though, they don't have the greatest core group of guys. Glenn Robinson III had a solid game. Buddy Hield played okay, putting up 13 points, but he's not shooting as efficiently as he was last year. Rashawn Holmes had 8, 7, and 4. He played all right. Harrison Barnes really was a non-factor in this game, posting 5, 5, and 2. And Corey Joseph was solid for them, facilitating around. But outside of that, they don't have, obviously, star power. And I'm not sure where they exactly go for this team. Obviously, their core identity is running through De'Aaron Fox, and he is great for this team. And Tyrese has now established himself as a great guard so far throughout his first few games as a rookie. So I definitely think they build around them. It's going to be a few years for this team, though, to be truly competitive. Just being in the Western Conference, it's going to be tough to develop over there, and it's going to take a few years and some good free agent signings for them. And whatever they end up doing with Marvin Bagley is going to be big for the future of this team. That'll wrap up episode 2 of the NBA Talk Show. I've been your host, Bailey Hauser, and if you have enjoyed, please subscribe and follow the channel if you are enjoying the content, as I will be posting more and more of these episodes as the season goes on.